Good morning, Paul, and the other few viewers that are on. So, hello, yes, this is a rerun of the stream that I did Monday. So, had a couple of issues, unfortunately. So, the sad thing was I just had to pull that video down, which is a bit frustrating because it was kind of a good video, really, for multiple reasons. It was useful because we looked at an MEO issue, and it's also useful because we looked a little bit
Paul.
at the other few viewers that are on. So, hello, there we go, silent you. Yeah, so it was kind of good because we looked at the departure procedures for Madeira as well, which are relatively straightforward. To be fair, there's not really too much to it. There's a couple of restrictions, really. Certainly wind limits. It's an airfield where there has very prescribed wind limits for departure, and you're not allowed to take off if it's outside those wind limits, which are usually a lot less than the actual aircraft limitation cells. Hey Dave, how you doing? And then there was the MEO issue too. So we're on that soon. We've got a couple of other aircraft here, by the looks of it. So we've got a TUI, an EasyJet, and another TAP. Not too sure what scenery this TAP's got, but looks like the other two are relatively in the right place. I think this is the Amsim scenery. Let's go in and force this failure then, just to make sure it's done, because that seemed to have missed it the other day. In terms of, actually, not that one. In terms of the random failures, so yeah, there we go, just make sure these are all unrealistic. I keep that as it is, because that way if we do get any random failures I can deal with it. The manual failures, so we will discuss this in a second, but basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to fail generator 1, which I shall come back to in a second, because that's the MEL we're effectively simulating. So that's failed, it's gone amber. It probably won't do much on the ECAM yet because the engines haven't started, but basically we're failing this generator. So this is kind of what we're going to do today, which is just a repeat. So if you did see me Monday, it's not going to be too different. If you saw it, then it's just really a carbon copy and repeat. But hopefully if you didn't see it, or we can look at it again. Yeah, I'm just sort of texting one of my best mates. Oh, that's Gavin. There you go. Bing. Cool. Good. Yeah. All right. I've got to sort that out in a second. So import the flight plans pretty much as everybody's used to. So yeah, we've got this MEL issue, which is 242201. So I've put this in manually. This isn't something that's automatically populated because I know what the MELs are. This is how it's displayed on our flight plans when we're at work. So we get, well, majority of the times, if it's a performance limiting MEL, which could affect either fuel burn or this, that and the other, or something, it'll be in the remarks here. Often it's just in the, we don't have a tech log, do we? It's one thing, they need to simulate a tech log or something somewhere. It'll be in the tech log, and quite often in the status sheet as well for the aircraft. So yes, we're failing generator 1. So let me just see if I can do this, because this is where I was faffing around the other day doing the wrong things. Yeah, Paul, do you know what, you say that, just off at a tangent for Australian routes, I believe I'm going to be able to stream Saturday night, which is quite a rarity. My missus is going out with our neighbour, just going out for a bit of a piss up or something, cocktails. It's like, fine, so I'm being taxi for that. But I have Saturday night free, so I've got some Brisbane scenery, which I did buy a while ago. It's sort of, for my planned round the world tour eventually when I get around to doing that. I think probably do it when the 330 comes out. So yes, I thought about this yesterday. If I can stream Saturday night, I shall probably do Brisbane to somewhere. I might see if there's some scenery, because I quite fancy going to Cairns or something, because I've done Cairns in real life and it's beautiful up there. So yes, Paul, it is coming, buddy. Don't worry, I am doing it. Strong deja vu, yeah, Christian. Yeah, I actually had to look at the flight plan. I was like, it is the right date, isn't it? It's like, yeah, no, it is today. I'm not looking at an old one. So where was I? A complete tangent again. So let me just do that. I'm just adjusting the sources for the video. So if I now go dunk, there we go. So hopefully this will be better. So this is the MEL, so it's an AC main generator. So this is what we'd look at before the flight. So we've got a repair interval A. This is what's on the flight plan. I'm not going to, I might move this across or something in a second. I'm not going to leave this up on the screen. We've got two main generators. We've got a generator in engine 1, we've got a generator in number 2, and then we've got obviously additional generators in terms of an APU generator and an emergency generator as well, which doesn't come under this MEL. But we need one of them, so we're okay to dispatch with one not working. It does need to be placarded, which technically you'd look over here, and there would be a placard over generator 1. So technically that would be done, but I can't do that in the sim. So we're just going to have to ignore that and just pretend that the engineers have forgotten to do it. There's a few conditions on this. There's an operational procedure which we'll come back to, and there's a maintenance issue as well, which engineering. So when you see O, that means an operational procedure, which is this here. When you see M, that's a maintenance procedure as well. So obviously the engineers deal with the maintenance procedure and we deal with the operational procedure. So yeah, maybe an operative for a maximum of 10 days or 50 flight hours, provided that the flight altitude is limited to 32,000 feet. So the flight plan today, if we look at the flight plan, I have capped it to 32,000 feet because we're going north, so it's an even flight level. So 32,000 feet, so that's compliant now with the MEL. The APU and AC auxiliary generators generation is operative and used throughout the flight, so the APU's got to be used throughout the flight. The APU fuel pump is operative, so I've not failed any of these. We're basically assuming that this is all working and good. The oil consumption is checked adequate by maintenance for the intended flights or series of flights, so this would be done by the engineers. All the electrical buses have power, and the indication alerts for remaining AC main generation and AC auxiliary generation are operative, and the automatic or galley automatic LED show system is checked operative. So there's a few operational procedures that we need to do, which goes on to the next bit, and it does say check landing capability. Now, in reality, if you've lost AC or a main generator, this time generator 2 fault. Well, I mean, it could do. It doesn't really make a difference, to be honest. Christian has done, exactly the same procedures. It could be 1, could be 2. It'd be interesting if generator 2 failed, though. Just randomly. I'm not going to do that, but that random failures are on, so potentially it could happen. So yeah, check landing capability. So in reality, can I go on to the next page? Let me just find it. There we go. So this is MEL. This is the operational procedure. So it does actually say maximum landing capability is Cat 3 single. So if we were expecting no visibility procedures at our destination, we'd obviously have to account for that. Basically just sort of consider that we're not going to be auto landing without a decision height. There's an APU fuel consumption, so we've got to amend our trip fuel effectively. We're going to about 32,000 feet, so somewhere in the middle here, so about 50 kilograms per hour extra. So I think this flight is, let's just get rid of you. What have we got? About an hour and 22. Our endurance, let's just look at the endurance more than anything, is about 2.5, 3 hours. So if we just look at this in terms of an extra 3 hours worth, it's probably another 150 to 200 kilograms of fuel we would need. And then there's a bit of a procedure here during the cockpit preparation, the engine start and the after engine start. So we'll look at all of this as well in terms of the operational procedure. Now I'm just going to leave this up here for a second so you can sort of look at it, take a screenshot, whatever, and then I'm basically going to move these to another page or my other screen, and then I'm just going to run through these as I need to, but this probably won't be up on screen. So yeah, it's there if you want to take a sort of screenshot of it or anything, and then I'll refer back to this when we actually do it. So if I get rid of you, you can go over here. That means I can come back on here and hopefully just readjust that. Good. So hopefully nothing in the background will display. It should just be the sim from now on. So that's going to be the main issue for us today in terms of the electrical generation. Again, it's not really a major issue, but basically the APU's got to be on throughout the flight, and we have to correct the fuel because we're going to be running the APU throughout the flight as well. Let's have a quick look at the weather. Here's my bloody pen. I look at the charts as well because it's just going to be the next thing which we need to consider for Madeira. I'm just going to write a few things down. Who we are. Why haven't you come on? Thank you. So what's the winds? So we got 010 degrees. I think a bit of ATC's online. I don't know how long they're going to be online for, but 22 degrees, 1024. Good. And the arrival, Lisbon, Cavoque, that's looking pretty good. What's the alternate? Porto up the road. That's looking pretty good as well. So 010 at 16, so that's the important thing for us in terms of the limitations for the departure. You should have imported. I don't know why you haven't. Thank you. You were there a minute ago. Ground charts. This one. So if we look at the sort of the main airport information page, It's a bit dark. We could bring the brightness up. So there we go. We've got a wind of 010 at 16. So there is a limitation here between 300 degrees and 010 degrees, 20 knots. So we're within that at least. That's fine. So if the wind was back round a little bit, we can still take off of up to 20 knots. And if it veers around a little bit more to the northeast, we can go up to 25 knots. But at the minute, we've got this nice little segment here, just a little sort of slice of the cheesecake of whatever you want to call it, where there's no really any limitations. So, you know, we're sort of here. So in terms of limitations for getting out, this is absolutely fine. So that's looking pretty good. In terms of fuel, let's have a quick look what we want to do. I think the weathering fine. Let's just have another quick look at the more forecast. So we got Lisbon, Cabo K. Interestingly though, it is the 10th today, isn't it? So there are some winds 350, gusting 30. So I mean, there is a tempo for the next 24 hours really. Then it might be a bit windy, so maybe a little bit windy at some point. And similarly for Porto Santo. Porto Santo is a takeoff alternate, and we've got a takeoff alternate. We generally need to do that in Madeira. I think technically if the wind's within limits for Madeira, we don't have to do it, but you know, generally as a matter of course we usually do nominate somewhere, and again that's not looking too bad, certainly okay at the minute. Porto's looking nice, Cabo K pretty much, and again the same sort of tempo, maybe a little bit sort of later on in the afternoon. So certainly if we were going to get there or divert there, potentially it might be a little bit gusty if we were to arrive in Porto later on. Far as the other one, that's all Cabo K, so that's looking good. So in terms of where we would go, you know, would we go to Porto, would we go to Faro? I mean, if we couldn't get into Lisbon for any reason, we'd probably have a quick word with the company and say, look, where would you prefer us? I mean, this is a Portuguese flight at the end of the day, so if you drop them into Porto or Faro, I'm sure they're not going to be too worried. Beja, which is a military aerodrome, so probably not somewhere you would regularly use, but you know, weather's looking okay there. Again, maybe a little bit gusty. And Seville obviously has across the border into Spain, so don't really want to drop a load of Portuguese off in Spain if we can help it, but that's not too bad either. Madeira, yeah, there's a bit of a forecast here on 020, gusting 32. So, you know, this is just within that sort of, you know, slice of the pie, really, where, you know, the wind limitations aren't really affecting us. But, you know, we do have then a tempo 01025 gusting 37. So, you know, we really have to just monitor this wind speed, because if it does start backing round to, you know, 360 degrees, you know, 020 degrees, it could find ourselves getting out of limits. So we'll just have to monitor that when we get ready to go. In terms of the significant weather, nothing really there at all. Pretty nice. En route winds are pretty good as well. So should be a relatively straightforward flight. No towns, always worth looking, isn't it? Nothing there for Madeira at Lisbon. I mean, I'd assume we'd be left this in the morning. Delays. Interesting. So yeah, delays may be expected for traffic to and from Lisbon due to a TACAN flight check. Okay, interesting. What time are we going to be getting there? Yeah, maybe in that sort of bracket. I mean, you know, this is obviously a real world surveillance flight. You know, they're probably doing some sort of instrument check or something, but you know, that's not going to affect us. I'm sure there's not somebody on VATSIM flying some sort of you know, surveillance, you know, testing flight. It'd be interesting if they did. Mobile cranes, a couple of taxiways, don't really care too much about those. A couple of stands as well. A few more cranes again. So Porto Santo, that should be fine. Firefighting and rescue downgrades to Cat 5, interesting. Yeah, so what's the minimum of RFFS we need for a 320? There you go, answers in the comments if you know it. Yeah, we need a minimum. Now we can downgrade as well, so yeah, I'm happy, but if you know the answer to that, then please let me know. Porto, that's all looking pretty good. Don't really care too much on Faro's looking pretty good as well, so there we go. So nothing really in the no times en route stuff. I'm not really going to worry too much. So there we go. So similar to the other day, payload's not so much this time, about maybe 110 passengers thereabouts. 6.3 is our minimum. We want about maybe another 300 just for the APU. That's 6.6. And then if it is windy, you know, potentially might be enough for another go. Is that winds moving? I think it is, Thomas. Yeah, I did just look at FS Realistic to see if I could lower it a little bit, but I'm assuming the wind is a little bit breezy. So where is... I'm sure there's a windsock somewhere you could probably see, but you would probably be able to see it moving about, because I think that the winds are reasonably stiff So yeah, I think that is just the winds moving the aircraft a little bit. Anyway, so yeah, just in case we need another go, let's have another 400 on top of that. Let's just go 7 tons. Let's just not mess about. The 400 kilograms, about another 10 minutes, so it should be enough to give it another go, and then we still got enough to go up to Porto. Interestingly enough, actually, what is Faro for the alternate? Oh, there we go. It's actually less fuel as well. So we got 2 options really. We've got Porto and Faro up our sleeve. So let's go 7. Let's start boarding everybody. And get everybody underway. Request for fueling.
Truck
yes,
is
please.
on its way. Please don't load aircraft until the fuel truck arrives and ask to do it.
I think the time we're due to go is in about half an hour, so that should be enough. Mass and balance 110 passengers. Where are any passengers gone? Come on. Why is this? Yeah, let's see if I can. How can I do this? How can I reload? Let me just see if I can reload SimBrief.
Fuel truck is in position. Please don't load aircraft until the fuel truck arrives and ask to do it.
Right, I'm just double checking, make sure all of this is good. Yeah. Just in SimBrief, just repopulating everything, just make sure it's all good.
Please use your airplane fuel system to set the desired fuel quantity.
This is looking a bit more better. That's it. There we go. That's about correct. There we go.
Your airplane fuel system to set
So we said 7
fuel
tons.
quantity.
Let's go 7. Start loading that up. And let's request boarding as well.
Do you want a board crew?
No, I'm already here. Why do I want a board crew? Perfect. So see all the little baggage trucks drive through each other. Don't know where he's going. He's going to another aircraft. I think he's going to the tap down there.
Passengers boarding starting.
6. Go through GSX. I say 6. 7 tons. Ah, I know what I meant, Christian. I don't know where they're going. So hopefully we should see some passengers. There they are. Perfect, so that's good. I'm just going to double check, make sure, because I know this reset itself the other day. No, it should still be that good. Right, let's get you in. Of course, it never takes very long. And the other thing I was going to show, I probably don't need to show, but I do have a Madeira brief which I will probably refer to at some point. Which I need to put that if you're on the Discord server, the Madeira brief is on the Discord server. I'm in the process of rewriting it because we can actually do our MPAR now as well. So I am just sort of basically amending that. Is it 70? Yeah, it is 1700, isn't it? Cost index. 12 apparently. I've got no idea what TAP's cost index is. That's fine. It is 22 degrees, nice and warm. Drop of pause is 43,000 feet, more or less, 208. Close enough. Winds, download you. Departure 05, Deg 1 Echo. So hopefully this won't take too long to do. Arrival 02, and it was, what was it? Upcot 6 kilo. I want to say I got used a different one the other day. So I used 9 alpha. Whatever, one of those two. Doesn't really matter too much. That's it. That's in distance about 534 miles. Yeah, that's close enough. Radnavs don't really need those too much. 32,000 feet. That is minus 44. Relatively warm cruise altitudes. Porto, yeah, that's the alternate. Fuel for the alternate's about 1.5 tons. So fuel weight is 54.8 / 30. What does it say for the fuel plan? So we want about 6.3. Trip is about 3.3, about an hour and 21 minutes. So it should give us some sort of figure. 3.6, 120. Yeah, not too far. Maybe a little bit more on the trip, but that's fine. Block 6.2. That's pretty much what the flight plan says. We're going to take 7 tons. So takeoff weight is 61.6. So well below max landing weight, which is good. So good to get back in here if we need to. I'm sure it'll be fine, even if we were a little bit above max landing weight. Secondary, right, so the emergency, I'm trying to remember what it was the other day. So I think the emergency procedure is basically take off a right-hand turn to the east, and then it's down to Fussel at about 3,000 feet, maybe. So I can put that in. Hey Peter, how you doing? I'm all good. GSX work good. 6 was the answer. Oh, sorry, yes, Christian, yeah, you're correct. It is 6, yeah, minimum, but you can downgrade it if it's notified on the ATIS or the NOTAMs. So yeah, you can downgrade it. I think 1 or 2, I can't remember. It's in the OMA. But yeah, you can downgrade it. So 5 still fine. I think GSX is good personally. I'm on record for saying at some point, why would you want to get a load? That's a load of eye candy. You don't really need it or something. But actually, yes, it is eye candy. But I do think it is a little bit more immersive, I suppose, is the best word. It just gives you something else to think about, something else to do. Which yes, we don't necessarily manage those sort of things in reality. That's why we've got cabin crew and dispatchers and everything else to do. But it just makes it a little bit more immersive for us. Is it Fussel or Fussal? I can never quite remember. It is Fussel, yeah, because the Fussal is there. Right, where is the? I need no. I'm just getting my not that one. Just getting the emergency procedures for Madeira, which I thought I actually had a document somewhere. I need to just download it. It'd be so much easier to throw it. Right, you download it. That's better. Madeira. Perfect. Right, so 05, 500 feet right turn, heading to the east, 2,000 feet direct to Fussel, which is what I've done. And then we hold at Fussal. And what is it? 350 left-hand turns. I'm not going to put arrival in just yet. I mean, there's the hold, but we can get back into 05 probably. Literally about to call bullshit. If you're still have the post somewhere. Yeah, like I said, I'm on record as saying, what's the point? And then actually, I am quite grateful that I've got it. So. I think the big thing with what I really like about GSX, ignoring the eye candy, so ignoring all of that and ignoring the fuel truck and your bags and passengers and all this sort of stuff, what I do like is there's guidance, so there's a marshaller, or it has its own sort of stand guidance, which is great, which improves things a lot. And then also the pushback. The pushback is very, very good, and the ability to amend pushbacks. That for me alone is worth it. And then of course you've got everything else, but yeah, that's why I do like GSX. What's that? 13. Yeah. Oh. Bill, $0. Yeah, I bet that's not quite correct, is it? What is it? 35p a litre or something? That was 1,300 litres. That's going to add up, isn't it? Going to be the nectar points. Anyway, you're done. Fuel's done. That's done. And get you done. Sorted. So that is done. Don't think there's much else to do in here. Performance we've got to do. Fuel we've done. Secondary we've done. Perfect. It should be 6,000. Any downside of GSX now is a bit slow. Is it? Other people on that sim will see you push. Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I don't really care what other people see, to be honest. That's not my concern. Good. So I think GSX has loaded everybody. We're still waiting for everybody in here. That's not a major issue. That's done. I think we can do the weight and balance validation to a degree. received. Have you got a load sheet? Oh, there's a number of load sheets. Let's go with you. It's a prelim load sheet. I'm sure it's all the same. 54.8. Yeah, that's what we're expecting. So fuel weight is 30.7. 7 tons, and the trim is going to be about 29%, more or less, within that sort of rough figure. Let's have a quick look at the performance. Verified dry, sync the load sheets. Yeah, that's correct. 61.9, is that correct? Yeah. 61.6. That's 61.6, I think. 29%. Let's sync the winds. That's still fine. That's good. Let's go a flat one. Toga. We got to do toga. It's mandatory here. Anti-ice is off. Packs. I will put packs on because it's tap. So I'm sure legacy type airline. I'm sure they use packs on. 2777 meters apparently, according to the actual chart. What do we got? 2,781. So I'm not too sure if there's just a little bit of cut off somewhere. Yeah, the runway distance isn't exactly as per the chart, but it's actually less, so it's more conservative, which is fine. So we'll just use full length at those figures. And there's the speeds: 116, 135. It's looking good. Toga required only because I forced it. You can't do a flex, but you know, it's mandatory to use toga here, or certainly my company SOPs are. So 160, 135, 116, 135. Try not to override the transition altitude like I did the other day. It was a donut thing. Right, flaps 1, toga, and engines. Good, that's done. Green dot is about 209, which is 208. That's close enough. Right, waiting for the final load sheets. Let's have another quick look. Let's see if we can do the ops procedure. Let's go back to this. I said I'm not going to show this, but here it is. So we've looked at the flight preparation. Cat 3 single. We've accounted for extra fuel as well. So when the external power is disconnected, IFE is lost. Okay, that's not really a major issue. So let's look at the cockpit preparation sections. I'm just going to move that across again and just do it here. External power isn't on. We've just got the APU. Good. So what did the cockpit preparation part said? So it says, check the galley automatic load shed system. So supply the electrical network from the APU or the external powers. The APU is on. And we can see that the APU is supplying the electrical network in AC bus 1 and AC bus 2, which is great. So it says, make sure the galley and cabin push button switch is on auto. So it is on auto. You can see if you turn it off, it goes off. So it is on auto when it's not been pressed. And then there's a couple of circuit breakers. Now this is where, unfortunately, just Fenix haven't quite modelled this. Go on, I did this the other day. Right, move out. How can I move you? Move. There we go. Yes, there's a lot of circuit breakers that are modelled in the Fenix, which is very good. So you can, pull circuit breakers here and there, and wipers. MMR. Have we got an MMR somewhere? Yeah. So so that's MMR2. So that's GPS number 2. So you can't even pull that. You can reset. But I mean, there are a lot of circuit breakers you could pull. Unfortunately, you can't pull the ones that we need to. But this is what we would normally do in reality. So it says. The electrical galley and cabin ground flight logic CB, which is Sierra 24, which is this one here, you would pull that. So we'd pull that out, and then we'd speak to the cabin crew and just check that it says check that a part of the operative galley equipment does not operate. So potentially the boilers or the ovens, etc. We'd pull this out, and then we'd just double check that they're not actually working, so that the circuit breaker is effectively working as it should. So we would pull that out, double check the stuff for the cabin crew, and then we would just push that back in. It does say disregard this procedure if the main galleys are not connected, which they generally are on the ground. So we do that, and then before engine start as well, it would say If the IDG associated with the inoperative AC main generation has been disconnected, check that disconnect message displayed on the electrical SD page. Now, I haven't done this, I haven't forced this, so as far as I'm concerned, the IDG would still be connected to the generator. The generator just doesn't work, but there would be an amber disconnect sort of message here. So just making sure that would be the case if the IDG has been disconnected. And it isn't, so don't have to worry too much about that. Just say for economical reasons, the IDG should not operate for more than 50 flight hours in the disconnected mode. Again, we're not simulating that, so don't have to worry too much about it. Yeah, if you see me in real life, Christian, yes. There's just a sort of big black sort of lever you pull up and then it's done. Right, so the last thing is just after engine start, so we'll look at that again for the after engine start. In the meantime, the rest of it's all pretty much done. So all we've got to do right now is wait for the final load sheet. That's the prelim. I'm just going to accept these because they're just repeats of themselves. Let me just have a quick look at the brief. I'm not going to show this, but I'm just going to sort of basically run through it in terms of what it says. So for Madeira, there's some operating restrictions really. It's a captain's only approach, landing and takeoff. We've got to make sure that the aerodrome is within the wind limits as per the chart, which we've already discussed. It's RMP approaches, we can do that. There's a takeoff alternate potentially if the winds are out of limits. It's not quite, but we've got Porto Santo as a takeoff alternate if we need to. And there's a few things for the threat and error management. Control flight into terrain's a big one. Obviously, there's a lot of terrain around to the sort of west, so we won't be going anywhere near that. Runway excursions not really effective for us today, but if you landed on runway 23, there is a downslope or significant downslope if you land. Arrivals we've already done. What's that? You done waiting for action. Oh, I think the door should already close. Good, so it looks like GSX is happy and we're pretty much ready to go. Do I still have any controllers? Oh no, the controller's gone offline, that's a shame. Never mind. Good, we're all closing up. Just make sure guard is on. And Unicom. Not that we're allowed to use guard, but force of habit. Should always maintain a listening watch on the guard frequency in case you lose the comms. That's on too. Perfect. Be a bit more colourful language than that. Well, you know, not with a door open with passengers around. No, I'm very professional. What's that? Update. There's an update. No, I don't. Right, where was I? So the brief. What was the other bit I was talking about? There we go. So approach is not really worried too much about that yet. Departure bit, so it says all runways Toga is mandatory, so that's what we've worked out for. So an early turn is initiated by 300 feet minimum, using a maximum bank angle of 15 degrees. SIDS are usually the INAV procedures, which is what we got. Radar headings may also be given to ensure separation. All departure aircraft require a backtrack on the runway, which may affect ATC capacity. Well, there's no ATC at the minute, so we're just going to have to manage that ourselves. Do not call ready until the pre-departure checks have been completed. Intersection departure is not permitted. So non-standard engine out acceleration, non-standard engine out procedure, sorry. So we've discussed that. And as we've discussed already, the aerodrome limits must be within the limits that's depicted on the departure charts. So relatively straightforward brief, nothing too much to worry about. But we can have a quick look at it in terms of what we're going to do. So the weather's generally fine at the minute. We know the wind limit is, or the winds are within limits. Let's just keep an eye on it though. So if we just refresh that every now and again. Well, there we go, 01014 gusting 24. So it's still just within the limits. Now, if it backs round a bit, the gust to 24, maybe not be. So yeah, potentially a little bit of a gusty takeoff. I value my job, so I'm not going to do anything to jeopardise that. So, but yeah, if the wind comes around a little bit, 020 degrees, it is just within the limits, but only just. So yeah, we've got to keep an eye on that. Really, just make sure we don't go outside it. The aircraft's generally okay. We know we've got the MEL with the Generator, which we've accounted for with extra fuel, the AP is going to stay on, so we're not going to turn the AP off after the engine start because that would be stupid. So we're going to get an ECAM after we start engine 1. It'll probably say electrical generator not working and it'll tell us to turn it off and on again. We're not going to do that. It's going to be turned off anyway. And I assume your ops for Toga takeoff at Madeira is because of casual. Yeah, Chris, I think it is. It is just to mitigate that. You know, it's because wind shear is quite a likely situation, especially with gusty winds. You know, effectively we're already at Toga, which of course is obviously the wind shear recovery actions. So yeah, it's just to basically keep you in Toga power. The no time's nothing really to affect the threats we kind of discussed. There's a load of terrain off here to the west, which we're not going to fly near. We're going to sort of take off. Oh, come on. We're going to take off and then turn to the right over the sea. And obviously wind shear, as I just said, is potentially another threat. But we're sort of mitigating that anyway because we're already at Toga thrust. So basically, if we get a wind shear on departure prior to V1 or anything, we reject the takeoff. After V1, we get the aircraft into the air. There's a bit of a split there as well in here, so V1's going to come quite early, but at rotate, we'll just rotate. Follow the SRS and we'll just keep it in Toga, and then we won't change the config until we're satisfied we are out of wind shear conditions. So those are the major threats. The other little threat, relatively short taxi, we'll just start both engines. Do the flight controls once we're stationary, and we can do the ops procedure as well. We'll need to do that for the generator 2, or generator 1 not working. So we'll do that once we've done the after start checks, I think. That's about it really, so there's not much else to say, and then it's a nice straightforward flight back to Lisbon. So that's it, that's pretty much the brief. Let's have a quick look at checklist. Yeah, there it is. Ooh. Right. Checklist. So let's have a quick look. The engine oil is a bit more on the left, but you know, that's okay, that's workable. It's interesting, it goes 8.1. In reality, the oil quantity indications or what's displayed on the ECAM, they're not this accurate. They only indicate to the nearest 0.5 of a quart, so it would say 20.5, 18, etc., or 17.5. It wouldn't actually go. It wouldn't say. Oh God, some bloody updates. I just want me checklist. Bugger off. Yeah, so you know, it'd be nice if they could adjust that really to a 0.5, but there we go. But engine oil's good, hydraulic quantity's all good, oxygen pressure's good, and that's hopefully, yeah, normal. Still don't have the final load sheet actually, so I'm still waiting for that. Hopefully that'll come through in a minute. Still a few minutes to go. We'll do that in a second, but with exception to that, we'll do the cockpit preparation. The aircraft acceptance is completed. I think we're done up there. That's all looking good. It's looking generally good down there. Fuel quantity, we have just under 7 tonnes now, and it is balanced. Seatbelts are on. ADRSs, we have 3 in nav, and the bar ref is QNH 1024. It's actually 1025, 1023 now, so it's gone down. 1023. I'll redo the performance quickly. I'm sure it's not going to make much difference. Come on. And surprised it's not sinking that weather. So we've got 0 and 0 at 14, 22 degrees. Excuse me. Speed's 116, so yeah, there's no change on the performance. Good. So still just waiting for that final load sheet. So apart from that, we're done. Hey J-Hog, hey Dan. How you doing? Hey Jordan. Still, yeah, there's still no VATs in, sadly. What's replying to me, mate? Hang on there. Definitely Monday.
Madeira traffic, Fenix A320, downwind, runway 05 for full stop landing.
Right, somebody's landed on 05 then. So where are they? Aha, there they are. Would be a good thing like engine oil, obviously would also be low for this round phase 2. Yeah, it's they just need to amend. I think they just need to amend the sort of default values. You know, default values of engine oil is always a lot higher than really what it should be. Right, so we've got somebody coming in. We've got Finnair. Then we've got another Air France. Is it? Air France is coming in. So yeah, it's a couple of arrivals. And then once they're out of the way, we can probably go, but not in a massive rush. Yeah, it just needs to be a little bit lower. Like normal sort of engine oils that we normally see is probably somewhere between 15 and 18 quarts on a regular day. You know, it can be a little bit lower than that, but yeah, you need about half a quart per flight hour that you're going to be flying down to what the limit is. Aha, there's a load sheet. All right, to make sure there's no wrong one. Load sheets, zero fuel weight's 54.9, so that looks like the limit 61.7. Yeah, perfect. So not really much of an LMC to worry about. I'll accept that. And takeoff trim is 29, which is 29.3. That's what we set for the takeoff trim. So you can go on flight plan, you can go on there. Not going to worry about changing the performance. And I think we are ready to go. What we got? 3 minutes. Yeah, looks good. Nope. Alright, let's do the before start checklist. Beacon can go on. That can go on.
Hello, Captain. We are ready for pushback.
Before start parking brake is set. Takeoff data is confirmed. Windows are closed. PDs are stowed and disconnected. Doors are closed and armed. And the beacon is on. Before start checks complete. That's closed. Perfect.
Departure checks completed. Bypass being inserted.
I'm going to do a traffic. Air Portugal 1700 is pushing back from stand Alpha 8 to face south. Lost him. Where's he gone? There he is. So I'm going to start the engines normally, and then there's just the after start procedure for the ops procedure afterwards. Do need to do me lunch soon as well. I'll do that once I'm in the air. After, yeah. Nose right, tail left, that's what I want. Oh, probably not removed chocks. Why should I do it? You should be doing it. You're the ground crew.
Hey, easy parking brakes, please.
Lazy bastard. It's your job.
Commencing push. All engines clear. Start at wheel.
He looks low. I'm not too sure you should be that low, mate. Right, the bleed's on. They're idle. Engine mode selector is start. And
traffic, Fenix A320,
Clear, bro.
05.
Oh. That's an interesting call. Yeah, because the windsock's a little bit stiff. So you wouldn't normally hear the characteristic clunk of the generator on this one, because it doesn't work. Now it looks a little bit better. It looks a bit high now. So there we go, no characteristic clunk of the generator. Looks like it started.
Preset parking brakes.
Standing number 2, and parking brake is set.
Waiting your confirmation for your engine start.
There we go, there's ECAM caution as expected. We know about that. Yeah, looking a little bit better. I'm sure they used to in the old days. Nope. Say great. Oh, oh dear. That's going to make the evening news, isn't it? Oh, he's wheeling it. He's showing off now. Right, anyway, 2 is started. That's available. So that can go back to normal. Right, there's no anti-ice needed. APU is off, anti-ice, but we're keeping that on. That's armed, that's done, that's set. 29.3 is kind of what we want, which is about there. Status, I'm not going to worry too much because there's going to be a problem. So I'm just going to disregard this engine 1 gen fault. I'm not going to restart that, so I'm just going to emergency cancel it. I just cancel engine 1 gen. That's the status. Let's do the after start checks.
Madeira traffic, Fenix A320, runway back 8.
Finnair for Madeira, it's Air Portugal 1700. We're just going to taxi in about 2 or 3 minutes, just got an operational procedure we just need to run, so it'll be ready to go in about 3 minutes.
Fenix A320.
So, going to hold him up a little bit, let's get rid of you.
Cockpit to ground.
Done. So the after start anti-ice is off, ECAM status is checked. Pitch trim 29.3, that's set, rudder trim is 0, so the after start checks are complete. So let's have a quick look at this operation procedure. Get it up. So it says after the engine start check the electrical buses have power, so I'm just going to open this so we can see it. So it says APU master switch is on, it is on. APU gen on,
Unlocking you.
it is on. And then we're going to turn generator 1 and 2 off. So 1 and 2 is off. And now we're just basically, oh, didn't like that, did it? Just double checking that the APU generator is supplying AC bus 1 and AC bus 2 as expected. So which is good. So the generator switch on the operative side turn on. So we're going to turn that on. So we've got APU supplying AC bus 1 and a generator 2 AC bus 2, which is expected. APU generator off. So now we want to make sure that generator 2 is supplying AC bus 1 and AC bus 2 as expected, which is good. So it's not really struggling with that one. And on the electrical SD page, check that all AC buses have power, which they do. And then finally turn the APU generator back on. So that's the operational procedure for that. That's all done. That's good. That's looking behaved. Let's go in. Let's just get cracking so we're not holding up this guy behind. Madeira traffic, Air Portugal 1700 is taxiing into hold short runway 05. Do the flight controls in a second. He definitely doesn't look that stable. Ooh, on the piano keys, interesting. Ooh. Yeah, brakes are checked. Is that a 350? That looks very nice. Right, quick flight controls. Full up. Full down. Neutral. Full left. Full right. And neutral. Rudder. Full left rudder. Full right rudder. Neutral. That's done. That's all done. It's on me. That's done. It's an A250. I think, by the way, the random flare should include switches not being left in known.
Air France to Studios 6 runway 05 located.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do that occasionally. The worst one, or the most confusing one, which nobody ever picks up, is the altitude repeating knob. This one here, engineers love to play with that and turn it off. You know, then when you take off ATC, you're going like, we haven't got any height information off your transponder, and we're like, okay. And eventually you realise that thing's been turned off, normally by the engineers. Right, that's done. I didn't do the 3 minutes and start that, did I? But I'm sure we've had 3 minutes. Go start you anyway. Right, we're ready to do that's done. So let's do the taxi checks. Where are we? Taxi checks. Flight controls are checked. Flap setting is config 1. FMA climb that blue 152. But unpredicted wind shear is on. Should really be on that, but there we go. Not that it works. Eco memo is takeoff no blue and EFBs are stowed and disconnected. Taxi checks are complete. Could really do some departure charts. Departure. Did do the PEDs today. Performance, we've got full length figures. We're going all the way down the end backtrack and take off. It is Toga and there's no LMCs to worry about. Engine out departure is non-standard right hand turn after departure off to the east, 2,000 feet right turn or direct to Fusal. Departure is, what have we got? Degum 1 Echo, that would be on the clearance, and we are stopping. It is a flight level, but it's 6-0 as per the chart. So what, that's done, that's done. Quick little paranoia check on the VAT sim. I don't think anybody else is around. I think it was only those two. No. Maybe somebody else coming in, but he's miles away. Yep. Fine. That's done. Finair's disconnected. Status is Gen 1 good. Nothing unusual about that. CPU's on. Going to leave the backs on. Madeira traffic, Portugal 1700 is line up backtrack runway 05 to the Deggan departure. Line up checklist cabin is secure for takeoff. Takeoff runway is runway 05. Full length takeoff clearance is confirmed. TCAS is T8, RA, and PAX 1 and 2 are on. Right, do I really want to be checking this? I'm just going to double check it. 0-0-18 gusting, so yeah, it's still just within limits, but it is a very gusty wind conditions. So it all looks clear on the right and clear on the left. So it might be quite sporty, this takeoff. That's why we're doing Toga. Toga Tuesdays. If it's Tuesday, I've got no idea what day it is actually. 3 minutes we've had. Have you bamboozled? Okay, my presence. I'll have to come back to you on that, Christian. Not quite sure what it meant. LS, don't need that on. Good, checks are done. About the time. I think we're ready to go. So wind is definitely from the left, so number one is critical in this. So yeah, it might be a little bit bumpy as we depart. Take a Wednesday, there we go. Madeira traffic, Portugal 1700 is departing runway 05 on the deck on 1 Alpha, 1 Echo departure. Right, let's stand them up. Take off. And Togo SRS. Thrust is set. $100 knots. V1. Rotates. Faster climb. Gear up. Nav. Thrust climb. Oh, I'm bored of that. There you go, AP1. And through S speeds, flap 0, speed checks, flap 0. Alright, that's the time the gear is up. That's all, they're off. Packs are already on. Set standard. Standard is set and cross jets. Flight level 60, no ATC, let's go straight up to 32. So let's open climb 320 blue. Yeah, we'll probably get a direct turn to Degen here. Direct to Degen, that's what ATC usually give us. What's the weather doing for Lisbon? I don't know if that's got gusty yet. It's always good for a gusty airport. Well, 350 not yet, so could be quite. Might be fun. That might be fun landing there later. Hopefully, I won't slew off the runway like I did Monday. That was a bit embarrassing. I'm not too sure. It's just the sim just froze at yeah, literally as I touched down. and sort of, yeah, started cutting the grass a bit. Sorry, Chris, what was that? So, have you ever bamboozled your coworker by pressing the space button many times on his side so that he thinks it's broken because the field isn't shown? No. How much flair shall I use? Yes, yeah, that's that's a good answer. You mean on the scratchback? If you press the space button on a Mac till the line is full of spaces, if you enter something, then it won't show. Oh, really? Oh, I see what you mean. I don't think that happens in real life. I think literally as soon as you get to the end, you know, once you get to the last character, if you press something, it would then just appear at the very end of the screen. Yeah, so I don't think that bug is applicable to real life. Right, through the 10s, airports can go on. Radnavs, we haven't got anything in there. Progress, 32,000 feet, it's well below the optimum, which is great. Performance, we're going to leave the cost index. Fuel, we have good 2.5 CNR, about 20 minutes, that's enough to give it another go. Secondary, I shall leave it alone for the minute. Have a quick look at Porto Santo. Definitely above the MSA. Seems smooth enough, so the belts can go off. Keep an eye on the electrics. So again, APU is still supplying AC bus 1, which is good. So the electrical system all seems to be happy. Try next time. I think it works. Oh, you do? Okay. I'll have to try it. I don't know. I'm not sure how many characters there are. No, you can try it, can't you? No, so up to X. So what's that? 5, 10, 15, 20, 23 characters. There's 23. And then you can't get anything else on. Yeah, I'd have to try that. I would have to try it. It's not something I've ever heard of, to be honest. So, yeah. Not sure. Practical scope would be much appreciated in the cockpit. At least not if you don't know the other well. Yeah, I mean, you can get away with some things. Yeah, some things you can get away with more than others. Put it that way. You know, the guys that I know reasonably well, I could get away with it, I'm sure. I mean, I've done that a few times. So I've pulled the circuit breaker on their chair. I shouldn't really be saying that. That's just, yeah. There is actually, I wonder if you can see it. Nice little view of Porto Santo. Probably can't quite see it from here, but it does say Porto Santo on the side of the hill, like here, I think, if you get close enough. Yeah, I wonder if does it go down that far? Probably not. Oh, I can. I bet they haven't modelled this, have they? No, I don't think they have. No, so there's a little electrical control box underneath the seat here, and there's a circuit breaker which you can pull. Just disconnect the seat from the electrics, so that these switches don't move or don't work. That usually stumps people. But again, like, you can only do that to certain people. I think people that you can get away with it. Right, I don't think there's any constraints, so let's just go back to manage climb. Very popular with the Germans, this apparently, this island. There is a ferry that goes from here, takes you over to Madeira. If you can't get into Madeira and you've diverted here, there's always the option. I think it's about 50 euros, 50, 80 euros to jump on the ferry and go across. It takes about 3 hours. How long until the realisation? Yeah, it depends who it is. How long does the realization last? Yeah, it's. I mean, some people know. Some people know just to check. Other people just go, "Ah, bollocks! My chair's broken." It's like then you can start giggling, and they don't quite realise. Good. Use a ton. 6.9. It's balanced. Perfect. Not leaking anything. Lightning's been detected. I've had thunderstorms again. I had thunderstorms yesterday. What was I going to do? I think I asked this before, but can't remember. But do you get rostered with a usual pilot, or do you get random different? It depends on where you are, Dan. Really, because you've got to consider the size of the base you're working at. So, smaller bases will get to know people a lot more regularly. When I worked for other airlines, and when I worked in smaller bases as well, the rostering is still relatively random. But because you've got smaller bases with a lot less crew, you obviously get to know people a lot more, and you fly with them a lot more frequently because there's just less of you to do the flights effectively. When you're in much larger bases, there's no sort of rhyme or reason. You still just get random sort of rostered with people. There's sometimes certain conditions, like new captains and new first officers aren't allowed to fly with each other. So sometimes there's some rostering restrictions to prohibit you from flying with somebody you shouldn't be flying with. And equally, sometimes you can have medical conditions. So some people might have a particular medical condition which may prevent them from flying with somebody else that has a similar medical conditions. Like we can get diabetic pilots nowadays. I can't remember if it's what's the words. They've got hyper and hypo, haven't you? Sort of diabetes, I think, and one of them is actually still allowed to fly, but there are certain conditions and things you have to do, like pricking your blood and testing your blood every sort of half an hour. So people with those conditions wouldn't be allowed to fly with each other. So sometimes you've got those, but normally it's just sort of random rostering. But then again, you do see people reasonably regularly. You either see them changing the aircraft, you may just happen to fly with them, just the rostering will just happen to roster you together for a couple of days. So, you do, but then equally, you don't see people for forever. So, yeah, there's no real sort of pattern to it, I suppose. Well, it's a lovely day, isn't it? Nice and clear, a little bit of cloud down there, but apart from that, it's all very, very good. Can't see any boats. You do often see the odd little sort of container ship or something going down here over the Atlantic. Just sort of look at them, just going really slow. Seems a little bit smoother as well. I think I adjust. Yeah, I think I adjusted the turbulence. I think when I flew Monday, it was a little bit sort of shaky, and I think what was the condition? General turbulence. So it's the range and the smoothness. I've adjusted that a little bit, so you can have, there you go, much higher range, a lot less smoothness, which isn't particularly good. But I've lowered the range to make the sort of bouncing, I suppose, in FS Realistic a bit more realistic. You generally don't bounce around too often. You can see it, you can see the sort of aircraft moving, but this is pretty similar to what it would be like in real life. Hey Ryan, how you doing? Stand 419 in Heathrow waiting for an Air Serbia to arrive so we can turn it around and go home. Ever flown the FS? No, I haven't. No, I haven't. I've never had that, unfortunately. Good, so we touched on this again Monday, which I sort of go through again. So this is an equitime point. This is an equitime point between the departure and arrival. So defaults between departure and arrival. So in this case, Madeira and Lisbon. So we can change that. Obviously, Porto Santo is a little bit closer, so we could actually go. Well, you know, if we needed to get back on the grounds really, really quickly, you know, what airfield is best to go to. So if we now have Porto Santo to Lisbon, it just moves the equitime point just a little bit further up. There's 1,000 to go. And equally, you know, if we think maybe Faro could be a little bit closer, FPFR, then you know, this might also change the equitime point and move it a little bit closer. Don't think it's changed it too much. No, I think Lisbon and Faro are pretty much identical in terms of sort of places. So where is it? So 191 miles to go. If we put that back to Lisbon, yeah. So the equitime point between Lisbon and Faro are almost identical. So if something was to go wrong, we might as well just carry on to Lisbon. I do, yes, I do, J-Hog. I do have FS Realistic. Right, that's out cruise. That's on below. What else do I need to do? Check the status. Let's copy this as well. Secretary's copied. Right, so we'll do a, well, just pretty much, you know, Degon's just behind us. Do a fuel check at NATA. Quick look at the systems. Is that? No, they still haven't quite done that. So yeah, when you press the all page, it should just go from one system page to the next. It shouldn't, like, blank and go back to the cruise page. So yeah, that's all looking fine. Bleeds looking good. Pressurization is normal. Electrical page again. Generator 1's off. AP generator is still supplying AC bus 1 on that side. Generator 2 is AC bus 2, which is fine. Hydraulics are good. Fuel, so 1400s, 1454 is about 7 tons. That's what we left with. Maybe a little bit of imbalance. There might be a little bit of imbalance just because the APU is feeding a bit more, suffering a bit more fuel from this side than that side. So, you know, an imbalance might generate, but it's such a short flight, it's not going to be an issue for us. APU, so that is on and looks like it's working. Air conditioning is fine, doors are good, wheels are good, and flight controls, again, no abnormal flight control indications. Oh, don't want to do that. That's that done. Turn that down a smidge. Hi the skies, hello, just tuning in. How you doing? Yeah, this is a bit deja vu, as Christian said earlier. So I did this stream, this exact flight Monday, but unfortunately had to delete it. So hopefully this one will be a little bit better. I won't have to delete this one. It's a bit frustrating, but I suppose in a good way it's not so bad, because my Lisbon scenery hadn't loaded in Monday when I did it. Well, I've just put that back in, and it all seems to be good now. So yeah, going back to this equitime point as well. So it takes about 20 miles. I mean, this is the sort of, you know, distance between point of no return, effectively, between Porto Santo and Lisbon. But it does take about 20 miles or so to turn around. So, you know, the equitime point, if someone's to go bang straight, you know, just before the equitime point, you know, you might think you're still closer to Porto Santo than you are to Lisbon, but you've still got to turn around. So really, the true equitime point in terms of what's closer, either to turn around or carry on, is about 20 miles ahead, you know, in front of the equitime point. So we can still amend this and tidy it up a little bit. If we just go, you know, if we look at that, we can see that the equitime point is about 14 miles ahead of NATA. So if we said, well, it's 20 miles ahead of the equal time point. That would basically means it's then 34 miles ahead of NATA, because that's then 20 miles in front of the equal time point. So if we just go NATA minus 34 and put that in, it's one of these boxes where you've got to select heading and track first, put it back into nav. So there we go. So now we've got a waypoint that's now effectively 20 miles ahead of the equal time point. So our true equal time point is now this one here, effectively. So if something was to go wrong just after this and before the equal time point, it probably is then just quicker just to carry on to Lisbon. If something was to happen maybe here or just before this PBD waypoint, it might actually be quicker than to turn around and go back to Porto Santo. But you know, you'd have to sort of know what the problem is to really sort of decide why you're turning around. Right, I'm just going to disappear offline, guys. I'm just going to make myself some lunch. I suppose that when that close to the time, it doesn't really matter anyway. You might as well continue. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of my point. So you know, if you're 30 miles in front of the equal time point, you know, it probably is quicker to turn around and go back. But you know, if you're within that 20-mile range, then it is just quicker to carry on. Interestingly enough, you know, the fastest speed is, if I copy that, so you know, what is the fastest speed to fly at and what's the fastest flight level? If anybody knows what the answer to that is, then you know, you get a gold star. But which is that? Choose computed or one you made? Well, I'd use the computed one, Dan. So yeah, this is sort of situational awareness and the rest of it. So that's my actual true equal time point. Because if I get a problem when I'm pretty much over this waypoint and just before the equal time point, I'm going to continue to Lisbon because I know it's probably actually quicker just to carry on. If I had a problem before this waypoint and it was serious enough to get on the ground, you know, you might have a fire or something you can't extinguish. I mean, you know, really in this neck of the woods, you're probably looking at maybe ditching the aircraft if you can't extinguish the fire. But you know, if you had a sort of genuine problem or maybe a decompression, you know, you probably are quicker then to turn around back to Porto Santo. So yeah, that's the sort of reason behind it. What else was I going to mention? I think that was it. I don't think there was much else. Yes, right, I'm just going to have a bit of lunch, so chat amongst yourselves. I shall be back in 5-10 minutes. See you in a bit. Yeah, hey Gav. Don't know, I haven't dozed off. I was eating my lunch. I know the last thing you want to do is hear me chomp on a sandwich. Yeah, so, you know, there's something I'm sure some people probably agree. Company message. There's nothing worse than bloody listening to people chomps in sandwiches and food as such. Yeah. Right, AOC menu, receive messages. Tap ops. Perfect, no delay. Aviation fun, hello. No, I mean, you're welcome on my stream. If you're still there, don't take offence of anybody. I don't know. It's a grown-up stream. If you can take a bit of banter and you're not too offended by the odd swear word, you'll be fine. Just yeah, just don't be a bloody snowflake. You'll be good. So just have a laugh, mate. It's not real. We don't have to comply to bloody real world things here. Fortunately, I do that. I do that when I go to work properly. But in this thing, I can do whatever I want. Anyway, going back to, is there anything on the chat that I've missed? Don't know, probably. Yeah, I was going to ask a question. So if we had a medical emergency now, what's the quickest way to get somewhere? Let's assume, let's assume we've just passed our equitime point, our sort of amended equitime point, so we're just about there in 50 miles. If we have a medical emergency over the top and we're going, we're going to go to Lisbon, that's what we've agreed we're doing now. What's the quickest way to get there? Now, I don't mean in terms of, fly in a straight line. I mean, that's obvious. But in terms of airspeed and flight levels, does anybody know how we would do that and what would be the quickest way to do it? So I'll let you think about that for a second, and then we can discuss it in a bit more depth. It'd be interesting, actually, to see if the Fenix model it. It would be quite interesting. So yeah, we'll have a look at that in a second to see if it's there or not. Ground charts, airport, that one. Parking stones. I'm going to be parking somewhere down here, I think. One of these stands, maybe. Arrival. There's that one. That's more by ATC, so it's not the 6 kilo, it's the other one which I was looking at the other day, the 9. 9 kilo? I can't remember. Can't even find the bloody thing now. Where is it? That one, 9 Alpha. Yeah, that'd be the one we would probably most likely do. It's not the 6 kilo. That should be better. And then we probably wouldn't do this anyway. Go straight to PESX. Right now, I don't need to do that. Where are we going? Lisbon. 02. Performance. I shall come back to this in a second. No. Oh no, what have I done? Come back. I think that's all I need, yeah. And what's the minimum? Is 530 feet. KH1022. .350 at 19 and 21 degrees. 350 at 25. It's probably the gusts, isn't it? 25. Yeah, maybe. Where are we? So, get the red speed down. Sort of, yeah, maybe. A medical emergency patient might be better off on the mainland. Yeah, it's not so much in terms of decision making. Like we know that we just say we're going to commit straight to Lisbon. That's fine. But just in terms of how we're going to fly the aircraft, what would be the fastest way to fly there? Is it stay at this altitude, at this ground speed? Is it to descend? Is it to, that's sort of more what I'm getting at. Abused, I'm sure Dan isn't abusing you. Aviation Masters, how are you doing? Descent late with the spoilers, yeah, it's one way of doing it. You're welcome, not being abused anyone. Yeah, just leave it, Dan. It's just don't worry. It's fine, buddy. Trust me. We haven't seen any of the bots or anything post anything ridiculous recently, so let's just move on, shall we? 8.5. Well, bygones be bygones. Let's just move on from it, shall we? Let's be grown-ups. Right, shall I go through it? Because we're pretty much there. So, this was explained to me relatively recently, which I thought was quite nice. So if we put the cost index at 999, which is the maximum we can do, obviously it's going to speed up, which we don't really want to do that way, so just keep selected speed for a minute. And is it going to, no, it's not going to do it. That's annoying. So I think this is out. So the optimum should change, if I remember. I think that's how I'm trying to remember how this guy showed it to me. But the optimum would then change to 25,000 feet. So if you were at, how is it? Is it in the secondary? We can do it in the secondary. Might have been in the secondary. I'm trying to remember what he did now. Yeah, I can't quite remember how he showed me. But whatever he did, the optimum changed to 25,000 feet. So if you go at cost index 999, your optimum, your fastest speed to get somewhere then goes to about 25,000 feet. So if we had a medical emergency now, we've passed our decision point, so we'd continue, we would actually descend to about 25,000 feet and just basically fly at about 330 odd knots. And that would be our shortest time to get to our arrival. So yeah. Right, I think that's resolved that, isn't it? I don't know what he was going on about. Anyway, yeah, it distracted me from things. So yeah, I don't think it's quite modelled correctly. I'm trying to remember how the guy showed it to me the other day in the aircraft, but yeah, we would put cost index 999 in, and then that would basically change your optimum flight level, I think, to 250, which is then the sort of shortest time between where we are and where we're going. So it's not really doing it. Would it be worth to check the wind maps? Wind's way higher. Well, yes, but don't forget the winds are in, Christian. So we've got winds. So it wouldn't be exactly, I mean, it might not say 250 exactly, it might be there or thereabouts, 230, 260 or whatever, but it's going to be lower than what we are here, because it's basically making your you're flying at your highest true airspeed. I think he was explaining it to me, but your winds are in, so it's going to calculate that for you because the winds are there. So it's going to give you a lower cruise flight level to achieve the shortest amount of time between where we are and where we're going. So yeah, I don't think it's quite modelled. I don't even know if I've done that correctly. I need to go back into the aircraft and play with it to see if it's see if I've done that right. But yeah, so so the answer to the question would be to basically fly as fast as you can near the top of the Barber's Pole, which is correct, but you would actually want to descend to about 25,000 feet, as that would be the sort of shortest time. So interestingly, you know, instinctively you think, you know, keeping your cruise altitude would actually be the quickest, but it isn't necessarily so. You would actually probably descend. You would burn a lot more fuel, but and you'd probably have to make that sort of, you know, make that decision of, are you happy to burn the extra fuel to get there? But as long as you're happy you're going to land where you want to land, and you know the landing's pretty much assured, then you can do it. So yeah, just an interesting thing that I picked up the other day, which is good. Can you display TCAS information with simulation? You can, yeah. If there's aircraft around you, it should show TCAS. Anyway, let's have a quick look at the arrival. The arrival is pretty straightforward. I'm not going to labour this too much. It's a unpot 9 Alpha. So basically going to go unpot. Probably go unpot PESEX. If there's no traffic around, I'll just sort of cut the corner. But it's below flight level 190 unpot, and then above 4,000 feet at PESEX. That's basically the clearance limit point, and also where we start our descent on the ILS. So 4,000 feet at PESEX, and that starts the ILS for runway 02. 3 degrees, which is fine. 550 feet is the decision altitude. Minimum 750 metres, a little bit higher, just probably due to the lack of maybe there's decent runway lighting, to be fair. But yeah, a little bit higher than normal for a cap on approach, but that's fine. The visibility is good. Missed approach is straightforward. It's straight ahead to 7,000 feet. So not too much of an issue there. 4,000 feet is the MSO within sort of 25 miles, so 5,000 or 70 should certainly be safe. We shall vacate. We want to vacate off to the right, Hotel 4. Yeah, there was, I think this is all closed now, so there might be remnants of an old high-speed taxiway. This used to be a runway, but that's all closed. That's now a taxiway. So we come off at Hotel 4, and then come off at Uniform, and then we're basically going to sort of park somewhere down here, unless ATC was online, and we could speak to them. There is European Sunbidons online. I don't know if they're within our sector. Yeah, let's have a quick look on that sim. I know people are messaging me on Discord. Thanks very much. I will get back to you if I can. It's east, isn't it? Oh yeah, Europe East, so nowhere near me. That's me. Yeah, so nobody really ahead of us, so we're parked down there somewhere. Relatively straightforward arrival. Like I said, I'm not going to labour it. In terms of the threats, let's have a quick look at the airfield brief, because that's always worth just discussing. Lisbon, because there's usually a few threats with Lisbon. Generally it's a pretty straightforward airfield, but there is wind shear potentially on 02. Certainly the wind's coming from a particular direction, so yeah, when there's strong winds from the north and northwest, wind shear can be expected, which is exactly what we got. So yeah, we could expect wind shear, so it's worth briefing that in a second. It's a bit of a downsloping terrain to runway 02, which we know about just the terrain profile. Complex taxiways and apron layout, but I know the airport pretty well, so that's okay. Military airspace that shouldn't affect us in the sim. ATC may reduce separation if they're online. Stability criteria, that's quite important for us. So 1,000 foot and the 500 foot stability gates needs to be based off the touchdown zone elevation, just due to the terrain prior to the runway. So our 1,000 foot will be runway's 330, so 1,400 feet on the Barrow for the 1,000 foot call, and then what's that, 900 feet Barrow for the 500 foot stability gates. What else is there? Departure not worried about weather we've kind of discussed. So yeah, that's probably the main things, I suppose. Wind shear is the other big thing, so with those strong winds, potentially we could expect it. So because it's strong winds, I am going to go config 3, and I might even add a couple of knots. I might go 142, there's 5 knots on the VAP, just to mitigate the energy of the aircraft on the approach if we do get a bit of wind shear conditions. Landing flat 3 on the GPWS panel, in terms of actually briefing the wind shear actions, memory items. So if we do get a wind shear, reactive wind shear on the approach, it's just wind shear toga. I obviously go to toga. I'll probably leave the autopilot in until we're relatively low down. Let's go back, manage speed, and that way hopefully the autopilot should be able to fly the wind shear recovery manoeuvre without any problems. It just follow the SRS. We won't touch the configuration, so we'll leave the gear down. If the gear's down, leave the flaps as they are, and then once we're safely out of the wind shear, we can double check that using the speed on the ND. Once that's settled down, we've got a good positive airspeed indication. We can just basically go into our go around actions, which is go around flaps. We bring a stage up on the flaps. Double check the FMAs, which should say Mantoga or SRS, and I don't think this has got nav in. I think because this may be a bit of an older aircraft. Let's have a quick look. This will probably say go around track. So yeah, I've turned a few things off on this one because it's probably an old one. So yeah, no nav in go around. So this will just say go around track on the FMA. Confirm there's a positive climb, get the gear up, and then retract the flaps on schedule. Now with the wind shear, we might get a real positive, strong positive airspeed indications. There's always the option that we can leave the gear down, which is a little bit non-standard. It just helps us out with the drag. And then we'll just climb away. We can always reduce the thrust as well once we're above 1,000 feet. Lower the brakes should be plenty on this. I don't expect the landing distance to be an issue. It's nice long runway. And that's pretty much covered everything there. Where are we? Am I a real pilot? Yes, well, I do fly from the pubs. Yeah, obviously I am. So I am. Obviously I don't. In terms of anonymity purposes, I don't say anything in terms of what seat I occupy, what airline, etc., etc. Due to social media policies that most companies employ nowadays. So yeah, that's just me. I'm a real-world Airbus pilot, but the purpose of this is just to educate you guys in kind of what we do in real life and what we consider. Because flying the aircraft is the easy bit. You know, this bit's sort of straightforward. It's the managing of everything else. And talking about the threat and error management and stuff. That's why we get paid the money to look after everybody, make sure it's safe. You're off, Christian. See you later. Yeah. See you in a bit. Where else have I missed? Biggest threat is looking out the window too much. Yeah. No, you got to look out the window, Gav. That's the main thing. I'm sure he did, Dan. Yeah, I'm sure he probably did. But he is left, I think, isn't he? He's not. Does he no longer work for them? He works for somebody else now. But yeah, it doesn't really matter, does it? Doesn't matter who we work for. Yeah, my missus is at work, J-Hog, so I can do what I want. I've walked the dog. He's sorted. Oh, was it? No. Who did you... Was that? Yeah. Yes, there's certain employment terms, conditions that have to be sort of respected, I suppose. And that would go for anybody that's a real world pilot that's streaming on YouTube. I would assume that, you know, those policies are basically incumbent with everybody. Yeah, and not only that, I'm not particularly a media whore. You know, I've got no desires to be in the press or in the media or anything like that. That's not what I do. You know, and the day that I do that will be the day that my YouTube channel gets deleted. So. Yeah, sort of there's a word of warning. If anything was to get into the press of something that I said on this channel, it would be gone within minutes. So that is not the purpose of this channel. It's not to whistle blow or to expose things into the general public that people aren't aware of. It's literally the only purpose of this is just to teach guys and educate a little bit on just how we operate their aircraft and little things that we can do to make our life easier. Of course, in the real world, what makes our life easier is there's somebody sitting next to us, and obviously cabin crew behind us and operations that we can talk to, the rest of it. But you know, this is the simulator, so it can generally be pretty straightforward. Do you change squawk if there's a medical emergency? Yeah, potentially. So if it's a medical emergency and it warrants it and you really need to get on the ground, you know, sort of immediate threat to life, then yes, there's probably consider going 7700, and that just lights us up on everybody's ATC screens. But that just gives us immediate priority. So yeah, that is an option. If it's not really an immediate threat to life, we may not have to do that. Then we can just maybe opt for a pan call. It wouldn't have to be a mayday, we could do a pan. And that way we could still get priority. But it really depends how busy the airspace is and where we are. It can actually just be easier just to go a mayday and squawk 7700, because that way we do get the immediate priority then. But some ATC sectors are really good. They're really accommodating, and you don't always necessarily have to do that. Yeah, it's a shame these people come on, don't they? I mean, it's banter, isn't it? It's a bit of banter going on. I'm sure most people on this channel do not deliberately go out their way to insult people or abuse them. That's, if anybody was doing that, I'd be banning them. So yeah, it's, some people are maybe just a little bit sensitive. Right, so I'm going to have a quick look at the weather, keep an update on this. What was that? So that's the 1200 weather, so there should be another one. Should easily be another one by now. 12, no, there's probably the 12:30 coming. That was half hour ago, wasn't it? So yeah, maybe another one due any minute now. So I'm just reading some work things. There's always some good work discussions going on in our little work group. And emails, don't care about that. Oh, nice easy day. I was contemplating doing the 2-sector Lisbon Madeira on this flight, but I probably ran a little bit out of time. It's only around 2 o'clock. Yeah, probably didn't quite have enough time to do both, sadly. Are the outside weather simulations, you see the actual weather for now on the... yes, Jeff. I think, is this sort of weather real world weather? Yes, it is. So it's probably very, very similar to this in the real world. I would suggest. There's a sun over the top of us. It's one thing which I've always sort of thought about simulators, and I suppose the flight sim is probably almost getting as close as it can. But when you look out your window, it's a day like today, it's a little bit cloudy, it's sort of scattered cloud. There's been thunderstorms around as well. And it's probably impossible to do this, and the expectation for it to do things is probably very unlikely as well. But you think almost the perfect simulation would be the simulation to replicate almost the exact cloud positions and sort of almost where they are and sort of what they're like in the simulator is what you can see out the window. But of course no weather simulation is ever going to be that good. But I think the simulator does do a pretty good job in terms of replicating the conditions, the visibility, the precipitation, and certainly the type of clouds as well that is actually in the real life. So even though they may not look exactly like it does out the window, or the locations aren't exactly the same, they are pretty good. So yeah, I think that the weather simulation is generally a pretty good one. It's good enough for what we're doing anyway. I mean, certainly when it's low visibility, in the real world. That seems to be depicted in the sim pretty well as well. So as does the wind. So yeah, I do think it's generally pretty good. Random question here goes, Jordan. Okay, when low in the gear prior to touchdown, are the wheels free to spin with auto brake on? Yeah, the brakes aren't on. Yeah, can you do that? No. So you can't even see max auto brake. You can't even arm, because that's an on the ground only auto brake. So you can only arm low or medium, and with our new software we actually get that on the FMA as well. But you can't arm max. But yeah, no, the brakes aren't on at all when you land, because you would burst the tyres instantly, which actually happened to, I think it was a 330 in Tenerife a couple of years ago, which closed Tenerife for a few hours. I don't quite know exactly what happened. I can't remember. I did read the investigation over it, but obviously the 330 has 4 wheels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the 330 on the back, and the 3, 4, 6, and 7. I think the brakes somehow locked on or something. So as soon as it touched down, it just basically, the tyres blew, and then it just skidded down the runway on basically a couple of tyres left. So some sort of technical fault. But yeah, so the auto brake kicks in after a certain amount of time, and it's changed. It used to be the low auto brake used to kick in after 4 seconds and decelerate you at a certain sort of deceleration rate, so many meters per second, and then medium kicked on at 2 seconds after touchdown at a slightly higher deceleration rate. Now they've changed the what's the computer that does it? Not the LGCIU. Bollocks, what is it? Not the ABCU. That's the ultimate. Can't remember. Whatever it is. But the braking computer, they changed it, I think. So a lot of aircraft nowadays, the auto brake kicks in at the same amount of time, whether it's low or medium. It's just low is a slightly slower deceleration rate than medium, but they actually activate now 2 seconds after touchdown. On a lot of aircraft, they've modded the auto brake computers, so it has changed. Back for a few minutes, sat in the aft coals. So much mail and cargo. What is a typical load sheet you see in real life? Because Simple Force makes my aircraft really heavy. It's hard to say, Ryan. Really, real load sheet. This is reasonably consistent, I think. 116. 1600, I think that may be a little bit more than what we usually get. Cargo, I mean, for my airline specifically, we usually get in the region of about 500 to 1500 kilograms of cargo on most flights. That can increase a little bit, certainly on the longer, bigger aircraft on longer routes. That can get to sort of 2 to 3 tons. But yeah, that's pretty realistic. Passenger figures obviously just depended on how busy the flight is, but yeah, not everybody checks in a bag, and I think they do weigh them. So the bags in the cargo hold are actually weighed. Yeah, quite possibly, Christian. I don't know. I don't know. Is it aquadynamics or whatever that word is for the rubber? But yeah, I'm sure there's some physics properties that are certainly applicable if something like that happened. Don't think I turned that on, did I? Oops. There we go. Charge you up. I don't think I ever did a fuel check, did I? Whoops, never mind. Well, what we got? We've used 3. We've got 4 left. That adds up to 7. And yeah, again, a little bit of imbalance just because the APU's using some, but apart from that, looks like it's relatively balanced. In terms of the options for the fuel, I mean, it's about a ton and a half to get to Porto, about the same to Faro as well. Worth having a look at Faro weather, to be honest, about 2.5, so we've got 30 minutes extra to think about. Let's just have a quick look at the Faro weather before we go down. Yeah, going down very, very shortly. So 310 at 10, so yeah, probably 28. Cavalcade, 29 degrees, so that's looking lovely. So I think firing might be the better option. To be fair, Porto's fine. 320 at 14, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. That's the recent weather as well. So yeah, quite happy to go to Porto. And is that going to be updated? There we go, 340 at 16. So yeah, winds are reasonably, they're not too bad, but we know it might be a little bit gusty. 22 degrees and 1022. Alright, there we go, top of drop. So flight level 190 is the first constraint, that's at or below at umpot. So thrust idle descent 190 blue, so we're just going to accelerate to the top of the magenta band here. More drag, I don't think that's quite going to be necessary. 22 degrees, which is what we've got, I think. 22, yeah. And what was the wind? 340 at 16. Is Gav still there? Is Gav feeling any better? I hope he is. I think he did message me earlier, so he felt a bit better. Carry on stuff is wage, yeah, carry on stuff normally isn't, unless you're obviously struggling to carry it. Yeah, it's, yeah, I'm fairly sure all the bags that we carry away that's checked in. And then we've got an LMC procedure, so if bags are taken off the aircraft, check-in bag, it's minus 13 kilograms if I remember. And then if a hold bag, it's not a hold bag, sorry, a cabin bag. Oh, a cabin bag is. Oh, we got Port approach lobby. 19.1. Yeah, if a cabin bag is taken off, it's then added, so it's then I think 11 kilos. I think. Oh, a bit of ATC. This is nice. Don't have the ATIS. Has he got an ATIS? Yeah. Porto approach. Very good afternoon, bon dia. It's Air Portugal 1700, descending flight level 190, direct to umpot. So we get the ATIS in a second.
Portugal 1700, good afternoon, Squawk 5270.
Thank you, Squawk 5270, and we're just reading Golf now, so Air Portugal 1700. 5270. So we're at Golf ILS 02, that's expected. Vacate Hotel 4, that's what we said, 340.
Portugal 1700. Radar contact, descent to flight level 60. Cleared input 9 Alpha arrival for ILS 02.
Thank you very much, descent flight level 160, and it's the umpot 9 Alpha approach for 102, Portugal 1700.
Portugal 1700, could you confirm flight level 60?
Apologies, descend flight level 60, Portugal 1700. Right, 60 is blue. So a bit of a threat here, we could cut the corner potentially, that's going to reduce the track mileage, so we might be a little bit high if we do that. There's no speed constrictions as of yet, let's just say 250 to be fair. She might just ask him. Approach Portugal 1700, any speed control?
Portugal 1700, no speed restrictions.
No speed here, Portugal 1700. Perfect, there we go. So let's just go open descent, 300 knots. So don't need to worry about the speed constraints, and that way if we do get a shortcut we should be more or less on profile. They don't weigh passengers, no they don't, they're just standard weights for passengers just based on the booking system. So they just assume certain figures, so I think 75 for a female, 93 I think for a male, I'm trying to remember. 35 for a kid. not being able to understand accents. Yeah, you pick it up, Dan, to be honest. And I've said this to so many people on the streams and stuff. Air traffic control is not going to be telling you, or very, very unlikely to be telling you something that you don't already know you're doing. So, this was the arrival. This is what I was expecting to do, which is why I've got in the box. So he was, he said to me it's an ILS for 02, which again I'm expecting that because of the wind. This is the approach I'm expecting. The flight level is going to be something between 190 and 4,000 feet. And he said, cleared for the unpot 9 alpha for an ILS 02. So he's, even though you don't understand, or the accents may be a little bit harder, he's saying something that I'm expecting him to say. And there's a little bit of confirmation bias in that, I suppose, but where you might mishear something and you think you've heard him say something that you expect, but more often than not they're saying exactly what you're expecting them to say. And the only thing is obviously the flight level, which I thought he said 1 something and then 60, so maybe he corrected himself. But when you read back the wrong figure, they pick it up and they correct you, and you just read back the correct ones. So yeah, it's not too difficult. You do get used to it. Still here, still alive. Well done, Cav.
For approach Eurowings 257, climbing out at flight level 55.
Portugal 257, radar contact, climb to flight level 240.
Climbing at flight level 240, Eurowings 257.
So it seems like there's obviously training going on. So it's 181 for tower. Yep. So that'll be the next frequency we can expect. I never actually turned guard on. Never mind. Whoops. Status. So this is the other thing which I did mention. I noticed this the other day. We've got generator 1 off, so really on the status we're expecting it should say Cat 3 single on the status page, and equally when we're on the approach it should only say Cat 3 single on the FMA, but it doesn't do that, so obviously it's not. Phoenix haven't quite got that modelled perfectly yet, unfortunately. But we know what the status is.
257, proceed direct Tosti.
Right, what are we doing for distance? So 54 miles at about 15,000 feet. Yeah, 45 miles. Need a bit to slow down as well. So we're looking relatively good. If we get a shortcut, that's going to take a few miles off. But if we just stay on this, it's looking reasonably good for the profile. FMGC thinks we are about 1,700 feet low, which that's fine to me.
Flying direct towards the Eurowings 257.
Portugal 1700, descent to 4,000 feet, proceed direct PASX.
Descend 4,000 feet, QNH 1022 and direct to PASX, Portugal 1700. Should be telling me that, should be giving me the QNH. Don't just descend to an altitude without that figure, buddy. PASX, direct. Alright, there we go, direct to PASX, so that's 4,000 now, QNH 1022 is set. How are we doing on the profile? Still a little bit below it, I think. Let's go back to 250. Should just about be there. 36 miles, yeah, that should be okay. And it's the approach checks. It says, when I can find them, there we go, approach checks. Barrow ref QNH 1022 is set. Seatbelts are, oh no, forgot them. Bollocks, forgot the cabin. Minimum is Barrow 530 feet, auto brake is low, and the EFBs are stowed and disconnected. So approach checks complete. Hopefully the cabin crew on the ball. So I want to be about 180 knots by PASX, so probably just getting a little bit high. What's that? 20 miles. Got 6,000 feet to lose really. So that's 18 miles plus a little bit to slow down, so yeah, just get the speed brakes out. Near the Airbus equipment vent outlet, do you know why it says hot air, but the aircraft was an engineering question? Thanks. You'd have to send me a photo, Ryan. Do you mean this one here? Because it can blow hot air out. That's why. Right, India is identified.
Eurowings 257, monitor Unicom 122.8, bye-bye.
Lights are on.
Sufficiently Unicom 122 Decimus, thank you for the ATC, have a good day. Eurowings 257.
So 4,000 feet to leave and about 18 miles. That's looking reasonably good. Let's go speed VS. Let's activate the approach phase before I embarrass myself. That's done. Meter, that's still the same. Yeah, be another meter, probably in about 7 or 8 minutes, but we're going to be more or less on the ground when that happens.
Portugal 1700, clear TLS runway 02, report to an established.
Clear for LS 02, we'll go Portugal 1700. Good, so we've been cleared. I won't arm it just yet, 22 miles, so I'll arm it when I get a little bit closer to PESX. Just try and remember not to forget it. Alright, let's manage the speed. Let's reduce the rate of descents. Decent headwind. Yeah, it is hot. Sometimes it is, you know, sometimes it does get hot, Ryan. That's why the warning's there. Alright, so I'm the lock first. It's lock blue. And let's go flat one, speed jets. Flat one. There's a status, there's no change on that generator one, and that's been emergency cancelled, so we go to remove status. .180 selected. There's probably some speeds for the approach. It's probably in the general section of the notes, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. So I'm mute. So there's glide slope blue, Cat 3 duals. It should say Cat 1. Sorry, should say Cat 3 single. This it shouldn't say Cat 3 dual AP1 and 2, just due to the generator. So yeah, obviously Fenix haven't quite got this model perfectly, but we're not auto landing, so it doesn't actually make any difference. It's probably cold, Ryan, because it's probably quite warm outside. It's all to do with the air conditioning of the avionics. So if it's quite warm, it'll be blowing a lot of cold air through the avionics to keep them cold. It's a bit of a mountain, isn't it? Alright, out start. Flat 2, speed jets. Flat 2. You going to capture? Interesting. Alright, disconnecting. Flight director's coming off. Bird on. If you're not going to do that, I'm not going to follow you. Manage the speed. Don't know why that didn't capture. But visual. 70 is the missed approach. And Air Portugal 17000 is location established.
Portugal 1700, contact Lisbon Tower, 121.8.10, bye.
18100 is Portugal 1700. Right, what's the inbound QDM? 025. 025, perfect. Lisbon Tower, Portugal 1700 is on the ILS at 8 miles.
Portugal 1700, Lisboa Tower, board that. Wind 350 degrees, 19 at knots. Variable booking 330 degrees and 030, coming 02, clear to land.
Clear line runway 02, Portugal 1700. Let's get this going. Start. Alright, gear can come down. I think so. I don't actually know. I think it's recording. Yeah, it is recording. Right, just trying to fly and trying to record and do everything else. Right, flat 3, speed check, flat 3. Not really on the glide slope or the localizer. I'll sort that out in a second. So landing checklist cabin is coming up. That is, there you go, secure for landing. Going altitude 70 or 7000 is set, and the memo is landing no blues. Landing checks complete. So all the thrust speed, that's what I should have said as well. I turned the flight directors off. You see, for a little bit of crosswind, so you know the magenta crosses the runway track basically. So what I want to do is just drag a little bit of right rudder, just drag this sort of yellow index mark just sort of over that magenta cross there. That's kind of the plan. And then yeah, just hold that rudder in. So for 1,000 feet, that's 500 foot. We're stable.
Above. 300. Minimum.
Bit of wind shear.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. Retard. 10. 5.
Spoilers. Press green. Decel. bit right of centre line, that's okay. Yeah, and your brakes. I doubt the landing rate record on that, probably not. So it's Hotel 4. Is it? Yeah, it's Hotel 4. Going on to Uniform 4. Let's all clear out the rights.
Ground 1700 via Uniform 4, contact ground 121750 Bem-vindo a Lisboa, thank you.
Thanks very much. Uniform 4 and ground 121-750, Air Portugal 1700. Good day.
Bye bye.
Right, I'm just going to sort of slow down a little bit here, just. If in doubt, stop. Oh, I forgot the other lights. Never mind. So busy on the approach, disconnecting. That's on. Come on, you're on. That's already on. Don't need those. Don't need those. Ground Aloe, Air Portugal 1700 is vacated on Uniform 4.
Capital 1700, welcome to Lisboa. Taxi via Tango, Yankee and Alpha, stand 116.
Watch out, Tango, Yankee, Alpha, stand 116, Air Portugal 1700. Right, where's that? Uniform Tango, Yankee 116. Oh, good, that's almost pretty much as I was expecting.
Inbound ground, Fenix A320, good afternoon again, ready for push and start.
Strobes, they can come off.
Fenix A320, stand by for push.
I'm not going to shut the engine down just because
Push up on 322.
I don't want to. I'm doing a recording. Yeah, did that even have a touchdown rate? I forgot to check the Fly Live Studio things in time. I was a little bit busy. So, down here, down Tango, Yankee, and in there. I don't know why we're not just going down there. It'd be so much easier. So this is the old runway, which is no longer a runway. It's now a taxiway.
Capital 992, contact Lisboa Tower 118.1, bye bye.
Lisboa, Air Portugal 992, contact Tower 118.1.
Right, I think I've done everything. I don't think I've forgotten anything. That's all done. That's done. That's done. Done the flaps. Yeah. So we can get GSX.
Fenix A322, push and start approved, facing north.
Requested position is already assigned to another
Push
aircraft.
and
How was
start
it?
approved, facing north, Fenix A322.
Okay. We'll double check that. We'll have a look at that in a second. No, the banner wasn't refreshing. Oh, was it? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, typical. Well, what other stands have I got? So I got 117, 115, 114, potentially 112. So maybe one of those stands. So there's Golf 1, so it's the next left. Well, I might be able to refresh it for the replay. So 122. Yeah, I think that's 73's on 116, isn't it? Background Portugal 1700. I think they've got an aircraft on stand 116. You happy if we go on stand 117?
No problem. Via Yankee and Alpha 117.
Thank you, Yankee Alpha 117, Portugal 1700. Good. Let's go on to that one. I don't know if this is Microsoft or whether this is VATSIM. I've got no idea. Right, so that's off. AP is available. We have, yeah, we've got accumulator pressure. That's fine. All clear on the right and the left. I will disconnect from VATSIM as well. I think I forgot to do that Monday. Oh. Oh. That's a bit sensitive. Right, parking brakes on. I'm not going to touch the engines. And that is nowhere near where I should be stopped. I should be stopped over here. Oh well, useless. Right, good. Anyway, they're done. So let's disconnect that. Alright, that's off VATSIM. Yeah, I'm off VATSIM. So yeah, this must be like a Microsoft aircraft or something. So I need to turn this off somehow. Yeah, no, it's not VATSIM, this is Microsoft, I think. Right, let's put the flaps back out and let's see if... Stop that. That's done. Turn the parking brake off. Right, let's see if this works on a replay. Aha, that's a good start. Stop buzzing at me. No, it's all good. Gears down, flaps are good. Lovely. That's all done. What are you beeping at me for? Alright, okay, I don't care about that. It's just because I've got a hairball. Fine. Good. So, this was approach into Lisbon. Oh. I think I did this last time. So yeah, I'm not too sure what happened on the approach. We armed the I'm the autopilot and the approach, but just didn't capture at all. So you know, things like that. You've got two options. I'm visual, so I'm quite happy just to basically disconnect the autopilot, turn the track FPA and get the bird on, set the runway QDM, and then just fly the aircraft manually. We know we're in more or less the right place because we're at 4,000 feet, and that was at PESX. Yeah, just basically just fly the approach and then just make sure everything gets centered, which is not displaying now, but yeah, you just start flying the approach sort of visually really, which is exactly what we did. So you don't really necessarily have to panic. If I was in IMC, it might have been a little bit more hard work, probably less sort of inclined to do that. So yeah, the wind direction is coming from 350, so off here about sort of 16 knots. So yeah, you wanted to, you can't see it, but there's a magenta cross here, which is basically the runway centre line. So the sort of crosswind technique is basically to drag this yellow heading track. So there's one there, there's one here as well, and you sort of want to drag it over to where the magenta crosses. You don't want to drag it over to the green track, because that's the aircraft track. So as soon as you put some rudder in, the green track then displaces as well. So don't align the yellow thing with the green thing, because that changes. So it's the magenta sort of mark, or just sort of take a sort of mental note of what the heading is roughly for the runway centre line, which for us was about 025. So you can probably see me do that. I'm a little bit right of centerline on this, so just allowed myself to drift a little bit downwind. But really, you just have to sort of keep the discipline in to put the rudder in to hold the runway centerline. There we go. And then just use bank as you see. So you can see I sort of basically aligned with the runway and then just use bank to basically try and get back on that centerline. The last thing we'll do is relax the rudder, because that's not going to help you. Been away for an hour, 2 questions, hope you still have. So yeah, go for it, Peter. Yeah, if you can. Yeah, I've got a few minutes left. So pretty much on the centerline there, and then just allow the wind just to sort of blow me a little bit off.
50, 40,
just about there.
30, 20, retard.
So we're just sort of trying to drag this yellow sort of
10,
marker onto the
5,
runway. There's so a few degrees off, but is what it is. You ideally want to be about 5 degrees, which I was there, but just a little bit downwind of the centerline. But it's okay. It's not the worst, not the best. We'll have a look at that from the outside. Crosswinds landings are never really the easiest. Don't really know what the best view is. So the flight controls and the spoilers, roll spoilers, obviously doing a lot of hard work in sort of relatively windy conditions. So yeah, just got a little bit blown. Try and put the rudder in, use the bank. So not the best. Should be doing a bit better than that really, but it is quite difficult in the sim because you don't really feel what the aircraft is doing like you do in the real aircraft. You've got a lot more tactile feeling, when you're sort of sat here, you feel the aircraft going up and down, etc. So yeah, let's have another look at that.
Too low, terrain.
Oh, behave. I'm sure we can get a nice cinematic view somehow. External. Maybe the showcase. That's quite an interesting view. See what that's like. Why did you disconnect the FB at takeoff? They won't take too many, and going to use the wing lights. Have you seen wing lights? So yeah, disconnecting the FB. It depends on how it's connected, really. We can have them hard, sort of wired, not hardwired, but there's a couple of different sort of configurations we've got on our aircraft. But if the wire's coming from the socket, if there's the socket down your sort of, there's a little power socket next to your sort of your foot, I suppose. If the power's coming directly from that sort of socket, basically what you want to do is disconnect the power cable, because if you need to open the window and jump out the window, the power cable can get in the way and trip you up before you go out the window. You don't really want to be doing that. You sort of disconnect it to basically remove the trip hazard. If it's more of an integrated sort of socket and it's not, the power source isn't coming from that particular place, and you don't need to disconnect it. So it does sort of really depend on what aircraft you're flying effectively. So yeah, there's the rudder, and yeah, so not the smoothest, a little bit right to centerline, but there we go. Can't always get a greaser. Wing lights, yeah, wing lights are just effectively to they're just there to try and follow on that. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, the wing lights are there to check the ice on the leading edge. So they're mainly used at night, to be fair, just to check if there's any ice in conditions sort of on the leading edge of the wings. That's kind of why we have it, why we look at them. Some airlines, it's their SOP to turn turn the wing lights on approach at all times. They just want to be as visible as possible, so that they'll have them on all the time. But I mean, it depends on the company SOPs really for that. Probably not the greatest. Ooh, yeah, can't really see much from there, can we? Yeah, it's basically as Liana says. That's sort of why we put him on. Yeah, not the best. Not my best landing. But as I said, you don't quite get the feel really. Right, well that's pretty much it, guys. There we go. That's a replay of take 2 of the flight that I did Monday, which I just had to get rid of for reasons. So I'm going to leave it like this. I'm just going to leave the wing view effectively just over the city. You can just enjoy the views for Lisbon for the next few minutes. Going back in. And there you go, turn up. There we go. So I hope that was a good little stream, guys. I hope that was a little bit better. Yeah, hopefully you should be able to keep this one up. So you should be able to just use this and refer back to it if you need to. An interesting one, like we say, because it talks about Madeira, a few of the operational procedures just for Madeira in terms of taking off, which are relatively straightforward for us. It's just effectively a toga takeoff. Obviously, you need to be considerate of the takeoff wind limits, and obviously we have the MEL for the generator as well. So just a quick sort of overview on kind of how we deal with that from an MEL perspective as well. So there we go, guys. I'm going to leave it in till effectively get to taxi, and hope you have a good day. So I might be able to fly tomorrow as well, so I might be off tomorrow. So if I can get a stream, I think the missus is at work, so if she's at work, then I might be able to get another stream in, which would be great. So yes, bonuses of work leave me alone occasionally. So there we go. Have a good day, guys, and I'll see you all later. Cheerio.